Well, good morning, lovely ladies and gentlemen. Steve Collins coming to you from beautiful San Antonio, Texas, the second most powerful, passionate, purposeful coach and speaker. Well, guys, we're going to try that one more again. Sometimes this Facebook Live is a little funny. Steve Collins coming to you from beautiful San Antonio, Texas, the second most powerful, passionate, purposeful coach and speaker in the world. Have you ever thought about this? We were created with a mouth that can shut and ears. I'm going to try to wiggle them and see if it'll work. Dang it, I can wiggle them, but I can't shut them. We were created with a mouth that can shut and ears that won't. What do you think that means? We were created with one mouth and two ears. What do you think that means? You know, everything manufactured down here on earth by men and women who manufacture things, everything in that manufactured item has a part with a purpose, with an intended purpose. Think about your car. Think about your stove. Think about your telephone. Everything that is manufactured is created with an intended purpose. So when we were created, what do you think the Creator's intention was in giving us a mouth that could shut and ears that won't? Well, there's a lot of things that can be derived from that, and I'd love to hear what you think this morning. What I know is I was reading my fun chapter 29, the book of Proverbs today, and it says, you see someone who's really quick to give an answer like that to somebody? There's more hope for a fool than for that person. Have you ever attempted to have a conversation with somebody like, for instance, this morning I will be taking a training course called BOLD for the 10th time. It stands for Business Objective, A Life by Design. It's the mothership, flagship training program for Keller Williams, shifting the mindset and creating habits for agents. And I have noticed something fascinating. The people who speak against it have very little production. The people who speak against it are typically struggling in real estate. Well, I don't believe in all that, all that rah-rah, I don't. Motivation doesn't last. Like Zig Ziglar was to say, yeah, motivation doesn't last. Neither does bathing, which is why we recommend it daily. So, the folks that are quick to, it says there's more hope for a fool than for that person. Why were we given a mouth that can shut and ears that won't? Why were we given one mouth and two ears? This is a great question. So my question to you is this. When you are presented with information, recognize this. You have a set way of thinking that may keep you exactly where you are. And if you remember, the beautiful man with that amazing hairdo, Albert Einstein, said this: doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result is actually the definition of insanity. So when people say, well, I don't want to do nothing new. Well, I've always done it this way. Well, I don't know about all that. Well, sweet love, hear me one time and then I'm going to end today. If you always do what you've always done, you will always get what you have always gotten. If you want a different result, you have to change the actions and activities. And if your actions and activities are just about your willpower and not a changing of your mind, you will eventually burn out and not be able to perform long term the things you must do to crush the goals and dreams that are in your heart. Because willpower only lasts so long. When your mind changes, everything is different. Let me give you a quick story and example. Stephen Covey, that wrote The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, talks about when he was on a train, a bus train in New York, whatever they call that, the L trains. He had gotten on, and a gentleman got on with 3 small children, and these 3 small children were creating havoc on the L train. And they were disturbing people and running up to people, and the father just blew it off. The father wasn't even paying attention at all. The father just completely blew off the kids, and everybody was getting agitated on the L train. And Stephen Covey says to himself, I'm Stephen Covey, man. I wrote The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Somebody's got to have the courage to tell this dad to step up and be a dad and do something about his kids. Everybody was frustrated and agitated. I know that doesn't happen when you're in public and kids are screaming and hollering, right? You're like, this is so fabulous. No, you know how it is. So Stephen Covey approached the guy and said, sir. And the guy looked up and he said, okay, for those of you that stayed, thank you. For those of you that had to leave, I completely understand. The second part of that story, Stephen Covey on the L train in New York said to the father, control your kids. Control your kids. They're driving everybody nuts. The father looked up at him and said, I apologize. I'm sincerely sorry. Forgive me, I didn't even realize what they were doing. He said, you see, their mother has been battling cancer for 6 months. And we just left the hospital and she died. And I just don't think they know how to process what has happened. And I don't either. Please forgive me. Let me bring my kids to myself. How do you think Stephen Covey felt? He had a change in his mindset when that occurred. He had a change in his thinking when that occurred. When he was given the full information and the full story, Stephen Covey realized that this man was doing the very best he could with what had just happened and losing his wife. And all of his anger and frustration at this irresponsible father who is letting his kids run amok on the L train in New York disappeared in a split second because he had understanding. My friend, if you have a tendency to speak against other people, let me share something with you. I love this visual. People were giving Jesus a hard time and he says, hey dude, why don't you pull the freaking 2x4 out of your eye before you go try to get that little speck out of your buddy's eye? Oh, isn't that exciting? With the measure we judge others, it will be the measure that is judged back to us. Do you want people to be gracious to you? Do you want people to be merciful with you? Do you want people to cover you when you blow it? Do you want people to have mercy on you when you screw it up? Well, are you demonstrating that to those around you? Or are you using your one mouth that can shut and not choosing to shut it? And are you using your ears to listen for your chance to get in that conversation, to speak your mind? Or are you truly using your ears to listen, shutting your beautiful little mouth long enough to hear, and trusting in your heart that this person across from you is doing the very best they can with what they know? And if you're struggling or stressed about it, it's because you're judging them. Stay in curiosity and not in judgment. And remember, the manufacturer knew what he was doing when he created a mouth that can shut and ears that won't. Have a great day, guys.